last week on Gleeboot, you basically missed nothing, but it was Christmas, and they sang a really long jazzy cover of Let It Snow and a way too short cover of Christmas Wrapping, that Hannah's favorite. And they sang Christmas Imagine, Feed the World, my other least favorite song. And that's what you missed on Gleeboot.
Yay. Yeah, it was basically all music last week. And,
not even really good music.
Gleeboot. Yeah. Well, happy 2021. Because when we publish this, it'll be 2021.
That seems like such a weird thing to say right now because we're recording. It's not even Christmas yet.
Yeah.
But
we're going to cut that. We're going to cut that whole segment. Hopefully the world is slightly better.
Well, I heard that my workplace is getting a ton of new shows in 2021, so I will have things to work on.
No, that's really good.
Yes, I'm excited. Is it something
that they decided to shoot during COVID?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Ooh.
All I know is that we have a lot of clients in 2021 and so many that they decided to hire more people. So
wow, that's a great sign.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Things are hopefully looking brighter.
Yeah.
Welcome to Gleeboot, the show where we get drunk and talk about rebooting Glee one episode at a time. I'm Cullen.
Alyssa.
And I'm Hannah.
And we have a special guest, a friend of mine from BU and a fan of the podcast, Yadira.
Woo! Hello. When I heard you were a fan of the podcast, I freaked out a little bit because I still freak out every time I realize that someone's listening.
Yeah, I do listen. I was listening definitely a lot more when I was actively watching Glee still, but I still keep up. You know,
Aww,
that's so nice. Thank you.
Yes. Yadira was one of the RAs that I worked with when I was at BU.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, as I used to say, they kept me young.
Yeah, Cullen was technically my boss, which is such a very interesting thing to say, I suppose.
Was Cullen a good boss?
Cullen was a great boss. He was excellent. We did love hanging out with Cullen.
Aww. I miss those days.
I miss them too.
Yeah, definitely in the, not I need to repeat my life, but
yeah.
Good memories of the past.
Yeah, very much that was a really enjoyable time in my life.
Yeah. That's cool.
So Yadira, we talked about this before we started recording a bit, but what is your journey with the show Glee?
Yes, so I watched Glee from mid-season 1, when it was live in the show, when it was still on air, from mid-season 1, I think up until the second to last season, which I believe is season 5 or 6. And then I went to college and didn't keep up with it when the show ended. So I saw Glee pretty much from the time I was in middle school all throughout high school. And then I rewatched Glee my junior year of college because I had never seen the final season. So I rewatched it. And then I was rewatching it before with my mom and my sister, and we made it up until the end of season 4 on this latest rewatch. So I am a fan.
Nice.
A true Gleek.
I really am. It shaped me in ways that, we're not always proud to admit.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Did you get a chance to take the BuzzFeed quizzes?
No, I didn't. But I don't remember if you you might know this, but I think a year or so ago there was a trend that was going around what are the 3 fictional characters that make up your personality? And my answers without a doubt were Rachel Berry, Monica from Friends, and Hermione. And my sister once told me this when we were watching Glee recently. She said Rachel Berry is what happens when you forget to tell someone like you, referring to me, to shut up. So honestly, I believe I'm a Rachel Berry, unfortunately.
We accept you.
Supposedly I am too. So I'm right there with you.
But we have to say that I think we were basing everyone off of like the good things that we could remember from like 3 episodes in season 1. And everyone else is like, I don't think I'm Santana. Because I gave me Santana. I was like, I don't think I am. So we definitely have to take those quizzes ourselves. Let's have BuzzFeed tell us who we really are.
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay. So are we ready to just, what we're drinking?
Yes.
You like touch your drink. I'm like, wait, what's that? All right. What are we drinking today?
I'm drinking. Remember a really long time ago on the podcast where we talked about you guys had left out a bottle of wine. I actually don't think I was in the episode. I think I edited it. So this one was in my fridge. It's actually a cooking white wine. I only used it for that. It's been in my fridge at least 6 months, and I'm drinking that. It's a Pinot Grigio.
Drinking a cooking wine. There you go.
It's a Pinot Grigio, so like it's still drinking, but it's so cheap that I'm like, it's really only good for cooking. But you know, it tastes all right.
There you go. I am drinking an actual Dark and Stormy this episode.
Whoop whoop.
Yes, not a light squall. I got some ginger beer and put some rum in it, and they're really good. It's good.
Very good. Yeah, ginger beer. That's like one of the only like sodas I can actually just drink right from the can. Like ginger beer is really good.
It is really good, and it's non-alcoholic for anyone who's wondering.
Like root beer.
Yes. And I pre-gamed with one of those beer, the peanut butter beer lagers that I have.
Beaver.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it might
It's gonna be a fun episode.
might be a little bit rowdy tonight, guys.
It's a great start to the 2021 part of the season.
Woo!
I am drinking a rosé Angry Orchards hard cider. But I also pre-gamed with some champagne that my coworker got me, like a little bottle, to celebrate Gleeboot's entering the new year.
Yay!
So
Yeah, we just had our 50th episode.
That's so weird. It does not feel like we've been doing it that long.
Yeah, I was literally looking at the calendar today, being like, okay, well, how are we going to plan out season 4? And I'm like, I was like well into 2021 by the time that season ends. And I was like, oh my God, this is an actual year. My goodness.
Oh, don't worry. We won't get there. Remember, Mercedes was like, it's the end times.
Right, it's the end times.
Yeah, we're all going to be gone by then.
the rapture will happen while we're doing Gleeboot.
Oh,
No, we have to at least finish it. I would feel like this podcast is done in vain if the world ended before that.
you get raptured up to heaven and you're like, excuse me.
No, I'm one of the people left behind. You guys get raptured. I have to find 2 new hosts.
Okay.
Gads, are you drinking anything?
Well, I'm drinking water, so
Good. Stay hydrated. Yeah.
Hydrate.
Someone here is making healthy choices.
I mean, I can see my water from here.
That's
Same
good.
energy.
Mhm. It's almost the same thing as consuming it.
Almost.
So close. So today we're talking about season 3, episode 10, Yes/No. Mysterious, yeah. Which is different from Hello, which is an episode we've had.
Which I thought was a ripoff of Jello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Resulting in one of our best memes.
Honestly, though, it's still like one of like the top rated ones. I don't get it, but okay.
So there's a few storylines. There's Sam and Mercedes. There's Wemma. There's Finn and there's Becky and Artie or Barty.
Yeah.
It'd be Blarty if it was Blaine and Artie. But it's just Barty.
Has Blaine and Artie even, like, have they even had a scene together?
No.
Cool.
So let's start with Wemma, because that's the main storyline, and
let's get it over with.
Yeah, so they're in the cafeteria, or they're like, this is not the cafeteria. It's
the teacher's cafeteria.
We see the teachers eat lunch more than we ever see the students.
Yeah,
it's true.
It's really weird.
Yeah.
Anytime they're in the cafeteria, it's because they're performing. That's the only reason they're there. They don't eat lunch. Mm-mm. They just perform.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Probably similar to the High School Musical people too.
Yeah.
Yes. High School Musical, the musical, the series just had their Christmas special come out.
Yeah.
Only the Christmas special. I was hoping it was going to be like actual more episodes. It's just the one.
Just the one.
Dang it. It's cute.
Yeah.
I have no opinion. I haven't seen it.
Support your indie streaming
service Disney Plus. Yeah, no, they're really hurting for people because they have so much content coming out soon that they're going to need people to watch. I mean, they just don't have as many subscribers as they need. Like, support them, guys.
Cullen told me about one of the things they announced.
Oh, no.
Which one? There's 1,000.
Yeah.
Does it fall under the category of movie? TV show?
TV show. It's a live action TV show. No.
It's called Little Town.
And it's like the backstory of Gaston.
Oh no. Oh my God, Yadira's face. She went from like disgruntled with her hand on her head and then just jaw drop.
That could be illegal. That could be illegal.
I agree.
don't want to see it.
No.
I don't want that. I prefer one of the 1,000,001 reboots that they have going on to that.
I would rather have a backstory of the rose in that cylinder thing. I'd rather have a backstory of a rose growing, someone picking it, making it magic. I want that backstory instead. What about LeFou? What about his backstory?
He's gonna be in it. Josh Gad is Don.
Oh no. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Colin knows how much I loved the Beauty and the Beast remake. It took me 4 watch-throughs of like 25 minutes each. And I texted Colin. I was like, I'm dying. I can't do it. And then I did it. And I was worse for it. I think that's why I'm not going to be raptured, is because it took me so long to get through it.
No, I think that's a point for you.
You think?
I think God hates that movie.
Hey, it's very pretty. I really admired all of the French Rococo.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Sure. Good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good thing to point out.
I support that.
Positive vibes.
Set dressing. On point.
Yes. There we go.
Anyway, we're talking about Glee.
Yes. Back to the point.
But that's our Disney corner. So
yeah. So where were so Suki's getting fed.
Oh, she's ready to eat too. I see her back there.
Every time it happens, I'm like, what noise is that? Because it sounds like ice. Like someone making a drink right now. So Beast is talking to Emma, and she's like, I'm eating 2 chickens because I'm celebrating that Cooter and I eloped because it was Christmas Eve and we were in a Taco Bell. And I said, Cooter, Coots, you're my soulmate. And they went to Fort Wayne's 24-hour chapel, which
I'm pretty sure Fort Wayne does not have a 24-hour chapel. I used to live there. I am in the know.
I guess that's not that far of a drive.
Yeah, I don't think they have a 24-hour chapel. They do have some gentlemen's clubs. That's just what I remember.
So
yeah.
I was going to ask about like why 2 chickens is celebratory, but that would just be getting into the mind of Coach Beast, and I don't think we have an answer for that.
We know she loves protein and meat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, they were at a Taco Bell like getting dinner, right? Fun fact about Taco Bell, that's where my parents met. Because my mom worked at Taco Bell and my dad would go there to get food with his friends after they drank or got high.
So
that's how they met. I know, right? It was Taco Bell in the early 90s. That was the place to meet people, guys. Especially in Ohio.
Was it a combination Taco Bell Pizza Hut?
No, it was just a straight up Taco Bell. Yeah.
Yeah. Pizza Hut would be even more romantic. You're basically in Italy.
I mean, Pizza Hut has like
that's
a light
right.
going on, so.
So Emma is like starts crying and she's like, Beast, I'm so happy for you, but I don't think Will wants to marry me. And Sue is walking by and she hears that. She's like, oh, Beast, you and Cooter got married? I guess I've been bested. And then she's like, Amelia, it's 2012.
She sits down at the table without insulting anyone. And just
pretty much
their conversation.
I have a lot to talk about with Aunt Sue here. I'm very confused.
Yeah.
But in a good way?
I enjoyed her this episode.
I loved that little trio sitting at the table. I loved it. Coach Beast, Sue, and Emma, best friends forever.
Can we quickly talk about how this is, I think, one of 2 times this happens in this episode that I remember, but Emma makes someone's situation about her. She makes Shannon's happy situation about her negative situation. So that's fun.
Yeah, I was like, way to make this about you, Emma.
Yeah.
I guess she's been hanging out with Will too much.
Well, I mean, maybe she's not the type of person who can control her feelings that well. I don't know.
Yeah.
She doesn't seem like
safe to say.
Yeah, she doesn't seem like an overly dramatic person to me.
I think she just has a lot of like childish impulses, and I think that might have been like why she's like, oh, let me talk about this thing that's really like bugging me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Good analysis of Emma, or as Sue
in this
calls
essay,
her,
Yadira Will.
Or Sue calls her Amelia. She's like, Amelia, it's 2012. Why don't you just ask him? And she looks over at Will, whose fantasy football season just tanked.
I don't believe that for a second. I don't believe that man plays fantasy football. I call BS.
This was definitely supposed to be like a guys' table, girls' table sort of deal.
It's so weird. It actually made me remember, like in the first season, do you remember the guys he used to hang out with? Coach Ken Tanaka, and then that guy who didn't have thumbs, Henri. Like now he's like hanging with the boys.
Whenever,
go ahead.
No, whenever they show him with like friends, and you're like, who are these people? Your friends are the children in the Glee Club. That's it.
And that has become very clear in this episode.
Yes.
That man needs adult friends.
No, he needs a therapist. That's what he needs.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And so Emma starts singing the Wedding Bell Blues, which she has a really great voice. And I looked it up. In the original song, the lyrics were Bill, but she changed it to Will.
Oh,
yeah,
okay. I was wondering.
That. Yeah,
I thought it was probably like Baby or something, and they just made it work. But all right, makes sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sequence. My problem with it was that like it was swooning over Shu, but in like a dreamy romantic way, and somehow that was worse than like sexualizing him. Like it made me ill.
I'm okay.
Yeah, I thought you were joking on your drink.
It felt weird to me because it wasn't even really about, I mean, it was about Shu, but it was like, it felt more like about having a wedding.
That too, yeah.
Which was just
it was
strange.
mostly the shots. It was very dreamy and like, I was like, I don't like that.
I also did not like whatever dress they put her in. It was not flattering.
It looked like one of those things that you use in the shower to like scrub.
It's called a loofah.
Now we know that Cullen is a washcloth guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's also like, so it's her like walking around the halls and singing the song, but also Beast and Sue are singing along with her. They're like the background, which I thought was like, it was kind of cute. But I'm pretty sure the hat, at least that Sue was wearing, was a reference to the royal wedding that happened. Because I noticed, I was like, I think that's a ripoff of that weird hat that one like Princess Beatrice or someone wore. Yeah, so it was like those weird time capsule things. I'm like, I kind of know what you're referencing. It was very, very odd.
I didn't notice that at all.
Oh.
And I don't think I watched the royal wedding.
I only looked at pictures afterward.
I was homeschooled, so we had it on while we did school.
I wanted to wake up for it, but my mom didn't let me because it was like 5 a.m. and she was like, no.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't have got my ass out of bed. No. But I am finally watching The Crown.
Ooh.
Finally. It's very good.
Yes, I love Claire Foy.
She's so good. She's so good. I'm excited to see the transition with, oh my God, I can't remember her name.
Olivia Colman?
Yes, she won an Oscar last year, right, for The Favorite. So I'm really excited because I like her too. Yeah. Anyway, that's the Crown Corner.
Yeah, so she sings Wedding Bell Blues, and then afterwards Will is like, did you just ask me to marry you? And she's like, oh, is that out loud? Oh no, oh my gosh. And like runs away.
Yeah, that was weird. Cause like she had that whole like scene in her, the whole sequence in her head. And I'm like, how long did she stand there? Or was it literally just like the walk from her table to his table? Like, I was like, what is the logic here? But it was awkward. I was also like, what if she literally just said, will you marry me? And then stood there for 2 minutes and he asked her, like, did you just ask me this? And then she finally snapped out of it. Either way works for me. It's both weird.
I don't understand why she didn't just be like, oh, did I say that out loud? Yes. Will you marry me? I don't know. Like, did she not just get up to go ask him that? I was confused.
That's a good question. I don't know.
And then she's all embarrassed about it. And like their entire conversation, so she, Beast, and Sue, their conversation at the table was basically like, yeah, you should ask him. So I was expecting her to be the one to propose this episode.
Nah.
Which, no.
Women can't propose.
It's 2012, Cullen.
Oh boy.
Oh, Glee, I love your take on gender politics.
My favorite line is from her parents, from Emma's parents later on. Can't wait to reference that one.
Yeah. So he runs into the classroom and he's like, he writes on the board, will you marry me? And he's like, I am proposing to Miss Pillsbury. This is the kind of thing you share with family and you're my family.
That made me so uncomfortable that I can't even begin to explain how I felt like that was just absolutely wrong for so many reasons.
Yep.
Yeah. Does he not have parents?
He does. They were in season 1. His dad was the lawyer mentor / sexual assaulter from Legally Blonde. And then his mom got really drunk and then was hit on by Josh Groban.
Oh yeah.
It was the acapellas episode. Curse acapellas.
Oh, yeah.
That was 7 years ago. That's what it feels like.
Why did he not tell his parents? Where is his family? What's going on?
This is the universe where she was an orphan. That's the Gleeverse we're in.
Okay.
He's an orphan incapable of making connections with other adults.
Yeah,
that's why he couldn't tell his parents.
He's stunted. He needs a therapist.
Yeah. And so their school assignment is to write proposal songs for their teacher to propose to his girlfriend, their guidance counselor.
Yeah. And Quinn opens with, "Oh yeah, we don't think you're gonna screw it up this time." And I was like, okay, to be fair, I don't want to side with him, but like his wife faked a baby. Like I can't, like how much of that is really his fault, you know?
Yeah. So
I was like, what? I don't know.
I mean, he did marry her.
That's true. That's true.
They were also high school sweethearts, though. I feel like that might play into it.
Yeah.
It's not an excuse. Still doesn't mean that it was a good idea, but I think it explains a bit.
Yeah. I just couldn't believe Quinn said that. I was like, but you were in on the thing that Terry was doing against him. Why are you blaming him so much? Like, I don't know. That was weird.
Yeah, the writers definitely didn't remember that.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, when they showed Terry and that's what you missed on Glee, I was like, Terry's back. Whoa.
Was she in that?
Yeah, she was in the intro, and I was like, what is going on?
Oh my God.
That feels like a different show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah, I must have looked away when that was happening because I listened to it. Yeah, interesting. I'm happy to announce that I did not fast forward through any of this episode. I watched it in whole.
Yay!
I'm proud of you.
You can quiz me after.
So that's their project, and first the guys go, and Artie, our favorite toxic Artie, he's like, the girls are gonna try and neuter you by having you like be emotional and cry. We want you to lead with your hips. He's like, what? And Mike Chang's like, yeah, you have Mick Jagger hips. And they're like, so then they sang moves like Jagger / Jumpin' Jack Flash, sing a mashup with scarves that Allyssa hated.
That.
So gross. I hated that. It was awful.
I hated that. Is that like a Mick Jagger thing? Did he wear scarves? I'm not a Stones fan, so
I don't know. I actually liked the mashup. It was fun to listen to and like sing to. Did not appreciate the visuals.
Didn't like any of the visuals.
I found it pretty ironic that they were focusing so much on Will Schuster's hips with regard to Matthew Morrison's recent interpretation of The Grinch live.
I literally wrote that. I'm like, all I can think of is The Grinch. Like, that's all I could think of. Every scene that he was in, I was like, all I can see is that green face and that green lipstick.
And him saying, I hate your couch.
And farting aggressively.
Wait, have you guys watched this or something?
No, listen, we have a conversation for you later.
Oh my God.
In which it involves all of us watching it together.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's there and they sing this, they do the mashup and there's like cuts to him dancing in a tank top, and then there's cuts of him in a t-shirt dancing.
Yes, I actually like I went on the Wikipedia because I was like, what is the song this is mashed up with? And one of like the critic reviews literally pointed out how like sickening, not in a good way, that it was to see those cuts of him just dancing in a tank top. They're like, it's egregious. I'm pretty sure that's what the critics said. I was like, I agree.
This episode had a lot of continuity issues. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, during Wedding Bell Blues, we're so focused on Shu's dancing. He like did like weird like ballet moves during that Wedding Bell Blues song.
Mhm.
Like she was like watching that in her dreams or whatever, and it was so weird.
Yeah, his dancing is his like form of like male prowess. Is that if they're trying to be like, he's strong, he's athletic, he's a man's man.
He's a great dancer. Like I will give him that. Like he's a good but then like I'm like, but it's Shu that I have to look at.
Yeah. So they sing Moves Like Jagger, and Slash Jumpin' Jack Flash. And then the girls interview him, like Tina, Santana, Mercedes, Rachel, they interview him about like
20 seconds.
For 20 seconds, like how did you meet Emma? And like he's like, oh, I met her in the hallway, and there's this flashback where he's like, hi, welcome, Miss Pillsbury, and they're like, ooh, connection. And
yeah, they were like, what did you think the first time you saw her? That was literally the only question they asked.
And then they're like, we're ready.
We got this.
And he didn't even answer. Like he didn't answer the question.
Alyssa, they watched his flashback. That's what they did.
Oh,
yeah. They entered his brain and watched his flashback. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they sing The First Time I Ever Saw Your Face.
Which, I'm not going to give spoilers, but I loved. I didn't love that literally 3 seconds in, Rachel was already crying, but I did love the song. Yes, Yadira.
I was just kind of uncomfortable in this one because I forgot that at this point, like all of our leading ladies are in romantic relationships or like kind of in romantic relationships, like with the Sam and Mercedes thing. And I don't know if like Santana and Brittany are a thing yet. Like
They're a
officially,
thing,
I
yeah.
don't remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember because there wasn't a lot of focus on them in this episode either. But I just didn't. I wasn't totally comfortable with the fact that they were talking about like the point was to be like Emma and Will's proposal song, and then you had each of these teenage girls like flashing to their significant others. Didn't love that, but it was still like, I guess it's like sweet and endearing, I guess.
Yeah.
Honestly,
that was kind of weird.
I was bored.
I know. I knew it. I was like, Alyssa's going to be really bored during this one.
Yeah, I knew that too. I saw that. Yep.
It was boring for me. I wasn't like, at least we weren't just watching them sing a slow song. I appreciated all of the scenes they cut to, but it still wasn't great.
Yeah. It was interesting. I think what was interesting about those little flashbacks to me was that they were scenes that we actually hadn't ever seen before. Like it was literally like the take of like the very first time each of these characters like saw each other. I thought that was really cool, especially like the Sam and Mercedes one, because like we'll talk about in their storyline, but like I didn't like ever remember how that started or any of that. So like it was interesting to see him like smiling at her while she's sitting on the bleachers and she just like blushes. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But I couldn't
thought they were
tell
cute.
if the Santana Brittany thing was actually like the first time or if it was like something that recently happened.
Yeah,
Because-
I didn't read into any of those really being the first time that they met. So that's interesting.
Well, the Finn Rachel one was obviously their first time. Like
And
it
I
was
think
set up like that.
Sam and Mercedes was too.
But like Tina and Mike, it was like they were cuddling. So that wasn't the first time they saw.
So that was like them being in love. Yeah. So like Santana and Brittany may have just been like a couple weeks ago and like Santana was giving her like eyes or whatever. Or I guess Brittany was giving her eyes.
Yeah. So then Finn and Shu are ring shopping. He brings Finn with him to go ring shopping. And they're talking, he's like, Rachel says like it's 2 months salary for a ring.
Or 2 weeks. I can't remember.
Which I remember when I was in grad school thinking of proposing to someone and like thinking of like, well, if that's 2 months salary, I make like nothing. Like, so how much is the ring gonna be?
Okay,
$50. There you go.
I've never heard of the 2 month salary rule. Never.
Really?
Mm-mm.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I've definitely heard of that. If my boyfriend is listening, if that ever happens, we're not subscribing to that because that is just a ridiculous amount for a ring.
Yeah,
I
no
can't.
kidding.
I'd be like, buy me a laptop. Don't buy me a ring. Let's invest in a good gaming computer together.
There we go.
That's what we should do.
That's the practical choice.
Yeah.
I have never, ever heard of that rule. It seems somewhat outdated, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you think about 2 months salary, like they say you should have at least that in your rainy day fund savings in case something happens. But like, especially people our age, like it's so
I heard
hard.
6 months for that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, if you think, okay, you have a 6 month rainy day fund, you have to take 2 months of that out. Like,
yeah,
that's way too much.
Like many strange rules and customs we have around marriage, a little outdated.
That would be like a $5,000 ring if like I was buying one for someone else right now at what I make. And I don't make a lot.
Wait, I have a question.
Ring.
So generally speaking, like the guy buys the girl a ring to propose, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Does the girl buy the guy's ring? Because you always have a guy's ring.
Well, for the wedding band, that's just the engagement ring.
Well,
guys don't typically get engagement rings.
But
the wedding bands, I think some people
like
do that.
Combined finances?
I know someone who bought her future husband's wedding band, and I think he also bought her wedding band with the engagement ring. I think he bought it together because it was like a set.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Really seems fair.
I think for some people they do like I think like a traditional like non-official one that a lot of women get when they're proposed to is like the watch. I think that's like also something that happens pretty often. They give them a watch afterwards. It's like here you go, we're together now. But it's not it's not as obvious as like the engagement ring.
Yeah, that's interesting.
If someone ever proposes to me and gets me an engagement ring, they're also getting an engagement ring. So
I agree.
People can tell that they're with me.
I agree.
That's like some cultures do that. Like I think Chaldeans do.
I definitely think it's becoming a thing more now as like people kind of are like weirded out by various customs that we've had that are somewhat sexist or like just really outdated.
Mm-hmm.
So
I have an idea. We can both get tattoos on our faces.
Oh, okay. It says I'm engaged, and when you get married, you get it crossed out, and it says married.
Yes, there you go.
I like it.
Very, very clear. No one can mistake
in Comic Sans.
Yes.
That's the only way to use Comic Sans, is a tattoo on your face. You heard it here first, folks. 2020 knowledge coming at you. 2021. Let me redo that. Take 2. 2021 knowledge coming at you. You're welcome, editor.
Great. I'm excited for that. So they're talking about the rings, and Will is like, Finn, will you be my best man? And Finn's like, are you joking? And he's like, you know so much. You've taught me so much about what it means to be a man. You're not afraid to cry. You share your feelings.
He needs some adult friends.
Yeah, and that's what we were all thinking. And Finn was probably kind of thinking it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand. Like, no, he first of all should not take him ring shopping. And then second of all, no, just no.
Imagine, hey mom, I'm going ring shopping with my choir teacher.
Yeah.
Oh.
What?
I feel like Carol would be like, wait, why did Shu invite you to do that? Oh, because I'm his best friend. Okay, but why? Like, I can see Carol having that conversation.
Yeah.
He's not even close enough with Bert. Wasn't he Bert's campaign manager?
Right.
Who are the guys he's sitting with at lunch?
No one knows. Teacher 1 and teacher 2.
Yeah, so this is just the first of many instances where Will's only friends are children. Yeah, and then Finn's like, can I talk to you about something man to man? I'm seeing a recruiter. And he's like, oh, I thought you gave up on football. He's like, for the military. I want to go into this like for my dad. Like he was a hero. And so we'll touch on that later.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so Will talks to Emma's parents, the ginger supremacists, aka white supremacists.
Yeah. Oh yeah, here comes my favorite line. Her dad refers to President Obama as Comrade Obama, and I was like, oh, okay.
You sound like someone from Ohio.
Yeah, a bit. Anyway, so yeah, that was a fun, and I was like, oh, that's right, he was president then.
Yeah, I
The good old days.
I really hated that scene a lot for lots of reasons. First of all, I hate Emma's parents, as like any normal, rational person should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the conversation that they had was just not it. And his reaction towards the end, I was like, why are you being doubtful now, Will, if you're getting ready to get married?
Yeah. Well, first of all, he shouldn't have asked them. He already met them.
Yeah, he
knows
literally.
they're crazy and that
They're abusive.
they're abusive.
Yeah, like why would why would their opinion even matter? Like
it shouldn't.
Yeah, that's like the one thing I was like, okay, there may be a point that like, okay, has Shu actually thought about what their life would really be like together? But I didn't really think he would be taking it that much into consideration. Like I thought he'd be fighting more.
Yeah.
And he didn't. And I was like, oof, you should already have an answer to all of these awful questions they're asking.
Yeah.
Like they're making good points about like, well, how is her condition going to be in this situation? Like it's something he should think about, but he should have already been like, well, we've already been through this situation. We've already been through this situation. Like things are going to work.
They should have, okay, as an actual real couple, Emma and Will should have already talked about this.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. Like, especially if like they were thinking about getting married. And I think they mentioned children way before.
Yeah.
I think so. So like that should have been a situation, that a conversation that should already come up, that like your condition currently as is, like, will we be able to handle that? What can we do to get over? Like they should have like he should have had an answer to every one of those questions.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's why I was like, okay, yeah, they're bringing up an interesting point. What's his response? Oh, no response? Cool. We're moving to the next scene. Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings up something interesting. I remember someone was talking about, oh yeah, like I asked my now wife's parents before I asked her to marry them, and I was like, oh, people still do that? And I grew up in a very traditional home, and my dad didn't do that. I didn't expect that to be something people still did. And a bunch of people were like, yeah, like you need to do that.
I don't
It's
think
interesting.
you need to do that.
I don't think you need to either, but I know that the tradition is somewhat like died out, and instead of asking for permission, you can ask for a blessing, which is different. Mm-hmm. It's like you're not saying, hey, I'm asking your permission, and if you say no, we're not going to get married. You're basically saying, we're getting married. Please,
we want you to
bless the marriage.
come to our wedding.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. I even think like for me, I've always thought of that situation of like, okay, the decision to get married and to like that's going to be between me and my partner. I wouldn't want the conversation to have been had with my parents beforehand. It's just like I want that to be our thing, and then we share it with our respective parents, you know, together.
Yeah.
Like, this is what we decided to do, kind of thing.
I mean, this is like way old tradition. This is like from back when people used to sell their daughters into marriages. That's how old it is. Not good.
Yeah, we don't. I mean, if my parents are going to offer a dowry, cool. I don't think they can afford it. No, not cool. I also think like it was stupid of him to even ask them because he comes in saying, I know you don't like me. It should have been like, I know you guys are fucking awful, but I'm going to be a traditionalist and ask for your daughter's hand in marriage.
I mean,
like,
Emma doesn't even like her parents. Why does he think that
she's like not afraid of them? She like avoids them.
Yeah, I don't understand why he's like, Emma, I know it would mean a lot to her if you guys like, I don't even know what he says, blessed our marriage or something like that.
I don't think it would.
No, it wouldn't.
I think she'd be mad if you went and talked to her parents. She'd be like,
Just
why
like
did you tell them? They're not coming to the wedding.
Exactly. Just like she was mad last time you invited them over without her account permission.
Yeah, that whatever. Her parents
has
suck.
a hard time with boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So then she's putting away the Christmas tree and she's like, oh, all the ornaments are away. He's like, you've been doing that since New Year's Eve. And he's like, how are you going to handle like the mess if we have kids, if we have a baby? And she's like, well, I'm taking my meds and I'm getting better. Some days are better, some days aren't, but I can't promise that I'll be better. I can just promise that this is what you get. You get me with all these toothbrushes and gloves and so much love for you. And my heart broke in that scene. I really felt for Emma.
She made a great point, standing up for herself and being like, because that's the thing, like, personally, like, I have problems with anxiety and depression, and, like, not every day is great, but, like, that's who I am, and I'm working on it, but I can't promise that, like, everything's going to be great all the time. So, like, yeah, I'm glad that she stood up for herself and was like, I'm doing what I can, but you know this is who I am, and you should accept it, or GTFO.
Yeah, she basically says that, like, you need to figure out if this is what you want, and sooner rather than later.
Yep.
And then he's all like, oh, and he rubs his hands through his hair.
I want to know how long after New Year's it was. Does it say?
Well,
It never said.
her parents come over. One of her parents says, like, oh, it's the middle of January and they still have the Christmas tree up. So I'm guessing it's at least 15 days. But, like,
People keep their Christmas trees up for a long time.
Christmas technically goes till February 2nd, the celebration of Candlemas. So
there you go. I honestly, it's like, if you decide to start taking down your Christmas tree and do it in chunks, yeah, do that. It's exhausting to put it up and then have to take it down and put everything away so it doesn't break. She's fine.
There's also the implication that Will has not been helping her take down the Christmas tree at all. So maybe he should shut up.
Yeah.
Man don't do housework. Man ask other man to marry daughter.
Oh, that's awful.
And man play fantasy football.
When man lose, man sit at other table at lunch.
So we're almost done. So then later he's like, the Glee Club is like, well, which performance are you going to pick? And he's like, I don't know. I have to think about my choices, implying that he's not sure how he feels about Emma. But then Sam comes up to him afterwards and he's like, I have an idea for the proposal. And there's no longer any conflict. Will has made up his mind despite no new information being added to the story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Are we going to talk about Rachel's song before that, or?
I was going to put that in the Finn storyline.
Well, she
okay,
does.
cool.
She offers a song for Will to use.
Yeah, she offers a song which I actually, when I started hearing it, I was like, oh, that's the song they do for the thing. And then it's like, no, it's not. But the song they do for the thing has kind of similar energy.
Mm-hmm.
Partially. So I was confused. But then I was not confused because I continued watching the episode.
Yeah. So then she's in her office with the pamphlets, like Never Ever After and So You're a Spinster.
I didn't see those. Oh my God, I missed it.
Why did you have So You're a Spinster in a counseling room for children?
It's probably, she probably made it for herself. It's probably a depression one that she made. She like always has like Microsoft Word open, ready to make a pamphlet.
It's her coping. It's her coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Do we actually see her make these?
No.
I don't think
We just see
so.
her put them out as like Will walks into the room.
I want a scene in the Gleeboot where like I don't care what's happening, but she's making copies, like she's printing copies of her pamphlets and a teacher like comments on it. That's what I want.
And
I want some more background in that.
She sings Carrying the Banner from Newsies as she
Yes. Yes. And she sings all the parts.
Yeah. She does like all these different voices, wears different hats.
She has like a mustache at one point.
Yes.
Terrific.
And so Will is like, hey, can I talk to you? And then he leads her in the hallway and a random student is offering her a white rose.
I was like, why didn't you pick people we know? Like, that was so weird.
Why couldn't
They
have
were
it
busy.
been...
They were prepping. They were prepping. That's why.
It's
True.
true.
Dedicated. Well, they get to the pool after they've already started singing. So technically, Rachel and Santana should have been those students and guided them and sang as they got to the pool.
Instead, Rachel and Santana were just singing to an empty...
They sing at least like 4 or 5 bars, and then she walks in, and it's like, you're missing it.
So they're handing her roses. Beast hands her a rose. Sue hands her a rose.
I thought it was really interesting that Sue was involved. Like, they definitely set it up with the wedding bells thing. But yeah, that's just like one confusing thing about Sue that I had. She's like in character, but she's not in character. It's very strange.
And they walk in and it's the swimming pool and we have the synchronized swimming team and everyone's in old-timey bathing suits.
I loved Rachel's bathing suit. And who else wore that?
Santana, yeah.
Santana.
Yeah, so pretty. I love that type of bathing suit.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I like synchronized swimming. I wish I had been on the synchronized swimming team when it existed at my high school, but I didn't.
They have those in high schools? I thought this was like a gag thing.
No, our high school, I don't really know why we still had it. I think it was just that, like, it was a tradition that was like restarted a few years back, like when I was like in elementary school. And then I think like my junior year, I think like the pool was just too expensive to keep up and they weren't really using it that often. Plus, like, it was so humid when we had to go watch those shows. Like, they were fun. It was so goddamn humid. It was like 2:00 in the afternoon. It's like 45 minutes before I go home. I'm like, I don't want to be here. I'm happy for you guys. You're doing great. I'm hot and sweaty. And I wore jeans because I forgot it was watching the Swans Day. I don't remember what they were called. Something Swans. Anyway.
Very specific memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember literally one day when I was in like, I think like 7th grade or something, I wore jeans and everyone's like, yeah, we're going to go down to the pool. I'm like, fuck, I'm in jeans.
Wait, so that kind of ties in what I was thinking about this proposal scene. I don't know, but I feel like if I were Emma, I would have personally really hated this because it's the high school pool. Like, that's disgusting.
Gross. Yeah, gross. It doesn't matter how much chlorine is in that pool. That whole area is disgusting.
Yeah.
Not only that, but like at the end of the scene, Will jumps into the pool and then he climbs out and is like inches away from Emma. And I'm like, if I was OCD, I'd be freaking out. Like,
she sat on the lifeguard chair.
He was literally dripping in like the high school, like, well, I used to swim in high school, and like when there were actual swimming PE like classes, like they didn't always properly clean the pool before swim practice. So like you would get into the pool and there would be like a layer of like grease and like hair products and like humans on top of the pool, like on top of the pool water.
Ew.
So like I couldn't stop thinking about that and like the heat of the pool and the humidity.
Yeah,
and
she would be dripping sweat.
I was repulsed.
Yeah, no, that's a really good insider point.
Will is supposed to know her, like they're supposed to know each other. Like he wants to propose, like they're what? They don't know.
But if you asked him her middle name, he wouldn't know.
So weird. So weird.
I think the only time they actually spend together are the very small scenes we see them together. Between that, they don't ever spend time together.
So, but the song they're singing is "We Found Love in a Hopeless Place" by Rihanna.
Which I guess fits.
Yeah.
It fits the story. Makes sense.
And they're jumping in the pool. There's the famous TikTok moment where Artie rolls himself into the pool.
I thought, I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Like, can he swim? And then all of a sudden he's just like on a floaty. And I was like, but how did he get there?
Yeah. And they're all doing synchronized swimming and like with their hands and stuff. And it's a fun number, I think. Like with the performance wise. And then Will comes out in a white suit and then he's walking on water.
Like Jesus. He makes a Jesus reference and I'm like, wow.
The entire proposal was so stupid.
Yeah, I did not like it at all.
He jumps in the water and he comes out and I'm like, if you're in all white, that shit would be like see-through. Like
yeah. Also, I just feel like all white is like, it's very Christ-like. Like he's like all white. He's walking on water. It's weird.
I mean,
it's a little bit precocious there.
Remember when he sang "Fix You"?
Oh yeah.
He thinks he's a savior.
Yeah. White savior Will Schuester.
Was he wearing a top hat? I can't remember.
Yes,
he did at one point.
Yeah, he was. Okay. I did not like that outfit. I kind of wished, I hated that he wasn't on theme. I wished he had been on theme.
Yeah. Why didn't he wear like, I don't know, like something that wasn't a white suit? Like, and it was like a penguin tuxedo too. Like it had the flaps and stuff. Didn't care for it. Now
all I can think of is him in one of those really, really old swimsuits, you know, for men where they're like the bodysuits and it has the pinstripes on them.
Oh God, no. Oh, my brain. Oh no. Yeah, well, okay, so I started watching American Horror Story that he was in, and I literally stopped watching like very shortly after his character was introduced, because in that American Horror Story he has a giant dick and it's like outlined on his shorts, and I literally was nauseous. I was nauseous about like the hair, like the facial hair and hairdo. I'm scarred. So actually, I'm glad he was wearing all of those clothes. I'm glad he was covered head to toe. He should have been wearing a ski mask too.
I just think of The Office where Pam was like, you know how people recommend if you're nervous, imagine people naked? I don't recommend that. I recommend you imagine them with more clothes on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he proposes to Emma. He's like, I know life is messy and you don't like mess, but I'm here to balance you out. And you do that for me too. And
give us an example.
He does not. And will you marry me? And she's like, yes, yes. And everyone's all happy. And that is the end.
She was going to say no.
I know.
I wanted her to say no. I wanted
legit thought that's what was going to happen.
Episode. Yeah.
I thought she was literally going to be like, no. Like, no.
Last time we talked, you weren't ready to deal with my...
And all of a sudden, you are.
You literally blamed me for my mental illness and said that that's why we could never be together. And now you decided 20 minutes later that this is okay and we're going to forget everything that we just discussed.
Yeah, pretty much.
I was expecting it. Didn't happen.
But she says yes, and so that's the end of Wemma, or the beginning of more Wemma.
I was like, wow, that's it? Okay. They get married, they move away, we never see them again.
I wish. I'd miss Emma, but...
Yeah, I'd miss Emma and her pamphlets.
Yeah. So now let's talk about Sam Sadie's.
Sam Sadie's. Surprise couple from the end of last season.
Mm-hmm.
And so everyone is asking, like, hey, like, tell us more about you and Sam over the summer. And they sing Summer Nights from Greece.
The very beginning of the episode, that's how it opens.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was going to be like an entirely Greece-themed episode.
I have a question, Cullen.
Yeah.
Is this the only time they do this number? Like the song?
I don't think so. I think there is more Greece.
But so do you think they do this number again with different people?
They might. I don't remember.
Okay. I thought you would know because I was really confused because I was like, wait a second. Don't they do Grease in the future? I only know this because I've listened to the album.
I actually don't think they perform it again in the when Grease appears again. I don't think they actually do it again.
Okay. I was confused, especially because it was almost to a T the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, although I had to say, like, Sugar and Santana fit their characters very well.
Sugar actually sang on key.
Rachel, that's true. Rachel also was dressed like the annoying cheerleader in the movie. Like it was, I don't know. It felt like too much like the movie that I was like, I'm bored.
But
I'd rather be watching Grease.
Without quality lines, like, did she put up a fight?
Yeah. They had to cut that one out, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. But then, like, they also do that weird overlay thing, which I hate in the original movie. I just think it's so weird. Like, I get why they do it because it's an older movie. But I was so distracted by Mercedes' necklace. It says Foxy. I was like, oh my gosh, this is great.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty straightforward number. Glee was meant for this moment. They sing Summer Nights.
Yeah, it was not really that creative.
And then after Will is like, we're going to sing proposal songs to Miss Pillsbury.
Oh, wait. In the song, the line, he just turned 18. Sam is not 18. That's a lie.
He was an underage stripper.
True.
Oh my God.
But
Yeah.
17, maybe he did just turn 18.
But he's not a senior.
No, yeah, it was last summer that they had a fling. So this is
Oh, right. Okay.
This is January in their time.
Interesting. Good catch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was like, why are they still referencing this in January? Why is this still a conversation that they're having?
Yeah. Why didn't they talk about this in September? But I think it's just because like Sam is back now, because that's what they say, like, you guys have been stealing glances. Tell us what happened. But like, I guess like maybe they didn't want to talk about it because like they had broken up over the summer and he moved away. So like maybe that's why they didn't talk about it. I guess it makes sense.
I feel like this was lazy writing. That's what happened. I think they just wanted to do Summer Nights. They just really wanted to do it.
Ryan Murphy's like, we have to work it in. Bring that Sam guy back if you have to. That's why they brought him back.
I want him to be back because he's beautiful.
I want justice for Sam. Sam is the himbo of my dreams.
Oh, that needs to be on a t-shirt. Sam is the himbo of my dreams.
Love Sam.
I'm literally writing that down right now.
For Somi.
Yeah, t-shirt Somi.
So then after the proposal, Sam is like, isn't it romantic, like marriage and stuff? Do you think you'll ever get married? And she's like, after I win my first Grammy. And then he's like, really? Because I know there's this guy that's really into impressions and really into you. And she's like, Sam, I'm dating Shane. Like, we had a summer fling. And he's like, don't you think the Tilt-A-Whirl and think of how much fun we had? And she's like, that was fun, but it was in the past. I'm with Shane now.
Tilt-A-Whirl. That's the thing that, like, you're in your own separate cups and they go back and forth, but then you're also spinning. You're like tilting and whirling.
I think there's two people in a thing. I think there's two people in.
Is it like the teacups at Disney World? Is that a Tilt-A-Whirl?
No, I don't think so. No. It's like,
what is a Tilt-A-Whirl?
So I think it has like 3 arms, and then at the end of each arm has 2 arms coming off like a T, like this, and then you have a car here and a car here, and they both spin individually, and then this one spins like this way individually, and then this one spins.
That's incorrect. I know what you're talking about. You're talking about that's called the Scrambler, at least on Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Yes.
Tilt-A-Whirl. I'm gonna put a picture in our little chat.
You have to explain it for the viewer, audience,
Okay, I will.
The listeners.
Good luck. All right, here we go. So a Tilt-A-Whirl, it kind of looks like hold on. Let me put this in chat. File. My computer. Recent. Tilt-A-Whirl.
Really?
No, that's the wrong thing. Ignore that. Just Google Tilt-A-Whirl. So Tilt-A-Whirl, it looks like, it's from the social media from today. A Tilt-A-Whirl is like, it looks like it's just like a flat surface that's kind of got like 2 humps, and you're just kind of going around this track round and round, and you're in your own little pod, and the pod spins. So you're going in a circle around the center thing, and then your pod itself is spinning. So it's like a merry-go-round, but like your horse is spinning, except you're not in a horse, you're in a pod. There's a ride at Disney World like this. I don't remember what it is.
Is it the cups?
I guess the cups are kind of like this, but I think there's like, it's either a Chippendale ride or no, it's what are the two people from Alice in Wonderland?
Mad Hatter and the March Hare.
No, maybe they're not from
Tweedledum and Tweedledee.
Tweedledum and Tweedledee, yes. I think it's that kind of, I think that's what it is. Tilt-A-Whirl, hold on, Disney. I remember it from when I was a kid. Maybe there isn't one. I don't know. Anyway. Continue.
Yeah. So she's like, that was fun, but I'm with Shane now. And she leaves him and walks off with Shane. And then he's like, yeah, those, is it because he's a stud? Well, first he's like, is it because I'm white? And she's like, you're insane. And then he's like,
she doesn't say no. That's what I noted. But I also like don't think that she's like that.
No. And then she's like, or then he's like, is it because he's a big stud athlete? I know those Letterman jackets make girls go wild. So then the next scene.
Question. Did Letterman jackets, like, was that like a thing in your guys' high schools?
No, we were
kind
poor.
of was. It wasn't mine.
We didn't really like, I know the guys had them, but it wasn't like a thing. Like, you got a jacket and a letter, and that was cool, but it wasn't like, oh my God, he has a Letterman jacket.
See, it was a thing in our high school, but it wasn't just the guys. Like,
Right, yeah.
it
Yeah, I know,
was
like, people
for
in the,
girls too.
yeah.
And it was like a thing because our high school had a lot of rich kids, and you got a Letterman jacket if you could afford it.
Yeah, you have to pay for them.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I never got a
like,
jacket.
Like over $100. Like,
I just have the letter, and I only had it from being in choir, and it's like a cursive M instead of like the blocky M. Fun fact.
I thought about getting one, but I still only have the patch for it because I couldn't afford it. But they seemed really warm. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. So then he's asking Beast if he can be on the basketball team. And he's like, where were you when I was having tryouts? And he's like, a hotel in Kentucky. And she's like,
How? Wait a second. Tryouts literally would have been maybe in December, because basketball season's in the spring.
Yeah.
Basketball season's like January to March or April, depending on how far you go. So like, he probably would have been there, unless she did them in like, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. Like, he shouldn't be able to get on the basketball team.
And she's like, every team at the school has been practicing for weeks, except for You're Not Gonna Like It. And then it cuts to him in synchronized swimming, being lifted above the pool.
I was actually happy about this choice because I didn't remember this ever happening. I just have to say that synchronized swimming is awesome. It takes a lot of skill, a lot of talent. I think it's probably a lot of hard work, and I respect synchronized swimmers. It is a sport and an art. That's a PSA.
Yeah.
cool.
So all the people who rag on him in this show, like Finn later on, I'm like, shut up. Shut up. Like, he's new to this. He has to learn all of this cool stuff.
Yeah. And they're all like, here's you're get a Letterman robe. Like, you have to have an aquatic themed nickname. And he's like, just trying to work.
That is amazing. He already has one picked out.
And then we meet Coach Roz Washington.
Nene Leakes, Real Housewife of Atlanta. Are the cops coming to get you guys for watching Glee?
For watching Glee. No, that's an ambulance.
An ambulance.
Yeah. And she's like, you are the strangest looking child. You've never seen lips like that on a white child, and one of your nipples is higher than the other.
I laughed so hard when she said that about his lips. Oh my God. Yeah, and then she mentioned his nipples, and then like we got a brief look at them. I was like, oh my God, they kind of are.
I couldn't see it at all.
And then she was like, you had to overcome a lot with those nipples. I was like, what? I don't think so. I don't think anyone at the strip club noticed.
True.
And she's like, I've had to overcome a lot too. People used to say black people can't swim, and then I became an Olympic medalist.
I was like, there's no way this show is not satire with these lines. There's no way that they wrote this genuinely no.
It was a lot. Like, I don't really remember this character, but like her introduction is a lot, and I loved every second of it.
She is actually one of my favorite characters in the entire series. I think she's so fun. She's so fun.
Yeah. This was a fun introduction to the character. And she's like, if you pee in my pool, I will kill you.
I felt at that moment a kinship with her.
Yeah. And so then he's walking down the hallway and his hair's all wet. He has a towel. He's like, Finn, I joined synchronized swimming. And Finn's like, don't say that so loudly. And he's like, you're in synchronized swimming in Glee Club? It's like you have a death wish. And he's like, swimming is sexy. And Finn's like, not when it's synchronized.
Why? I don't get it. Why is that not sexy? Why does it have to be sexy? They're children.
It's because Glee likes to uphold these standards of masculinity, and it often makes Finn the voice of them.
You're right.
Which is why Sam, as much as I love Finn, but it's why Sam is better than Finn. Because Sam doesn't care about that stuff.
I don't think
he's a
think
good
there's any arguments here. Just blanket statement. Sam better than Finn.
Yeah, he just does what he likes, and he's like all cool with it. And
he's a good role model in that. Like as a TV character, so like one character to really look up to in that respect, just like a general person. I think that's a great thing to look up to if you're a younger person watching the show for the first time.
Yeah, like
does his thing.
He was gonna do the duet with Kurt in season 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So love Sam, and he's like smiling and approaching Mercedes. And then he gets slushied by the hockey team. They're like, see, it was synchronized. And Mercedes is like, oh my gosh, Sam. And then her boyfriend Shane shows up and is like, what are you doing? And she's like, just helping a friend. And it's like, he'll pull through. Come on, let me walk you to study hall.
Yeah, that guy, he's not stupid. He knows there's got to be something going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And as we know from past episodes of Glee, helping a guy clean off from a slushie is like the height of romance.
Yeah, it's so romantic. Listening to them complain about how cold it was and how much it stung their eyes, and then like mopping it out of their hair. It's so romantic.
Do anything by themselves.
Yeah, you have to do it. You have to get a damp rag and just pat their head. I'm fine. I've had 2 glasses of this cooking wine, and I am definitely cooked.
And that's really the end of Sam and Mercedes for this episode. It was like an unfinished storyline.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
I was actually really hoping we would go more into it and like this episode would be about them.
Yeah. It literally starts with them.
Yeah.
And then I was like, not enough Sam and Mercedes as far as I'm concerned. What's happening here?
I want them to have their own movie. That's what I want.
Why would they ever? Why would it ever be about them?
I want it to be about them. They're adorable.
Yeah.
In another life.
In the Gleeboot.
Yeah.
We can have a spin-off movie.
The Sam and Mercedes movie.
Or it's literally just a whole episode dedicated to them. And everyone else in the storyline doesn't matter. It's just very small things here and there. Theirs is the through line. They deserve at least one whole episode.
Yes.
At least, yeah.
None of this Wemma bullshit.
So speaking of bullshit, let's talk about Becky and Artie and Barney.
Oh, okay, yeah, let's do that.
So Becky's gotta get your headphones ready.
Ready.
Becky's inner monologue is voiced by Helen Mirren,
Queen of England in a movie.
And she's like, why do I sound like the Queen of England? Because it's my thoughts. I can sound like however I want. So back off, haters.
Okay, I have to say that if Becky's inner monologue sounds like that, that's an incredible talent. Like that takes so much focus and concentration to have that be like your inherent inner voice. That's fantastic.
Some people don't even have inner voices.
What?
Wait, you didn't know this? Some people don't have inner monologues. I think in concepts, not in words.
No, I did not know this.
A lot of people have both. I used to be like that, and I didn't think in words. I only thought in concepts. But the more that I ingested like movies and TV where you hear the actual inner monologue, it kind of manifests itself. So now I have both, whereas sometimes I think in concepts and conceptually and not in sentences. And then other times I actually think in sentences.
Huh.
I think in pictures.
Yep. See?
Huh. Did not know that. Fun fact.
Yeah.
Well, I could not do a British accent all the time in my head. It's just impossible. I try to read Harry Potter with a British accent. It's American nonsense up here. I can't do it.
And she's like, when she says back off haters, I expected Miranda Sings to appear. Just back off.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
In the
Miranda
Gleeboot
Sings.
Thanksgiving episode, they will cover her Thanksgiving song. That's just her saying Happy Thanksgiving a million times in a row.
Speaking of Thanksgiving, I'm really bummed because I think next season's schedule won't line up with holidays.
Oh, darn.
But I'm going to repeat the Thanksgiving information meme that I have planned when that episode happens and then when Thanksgiving rolls around next year. I have wanted to talk about it for years since we started this podcast. I'm so excited for season 4.
Yay.
Cullen knows what I'm talking about. After the treble tones, this is my next thing I'm focused on.
Okay.
So, where are we? Yeah, so Becky is like, I'm the hottest bitch at this school. I'm head cheerleader. I could have any guy I want, but I'm very picky. And she walks down. She's like, for example, Rory grins too much. She's like an insane person.
I laughed very hard at that.
Which I connected with him because one of my friends in college, we were like talking about first impressions, and she was like, "You were too nice and you smile too much."
To you?
Yeah.
Aw.
And then she walks by Puck and she's like, Puckerman, is that a mohawk or a squirrel glued to your head?
I think it's a squirrel. Mm-hmm.
And then she says, no Chengdu, I ain't no rice queen.
Yeah, loved that line so much. Oh, wow. That was just not racist at all. It's those moments where I'm like, I don't get it. Like, how can Glee get away with that then? Like, I don't get it. Were we that bad? Don't answer that. We probably were. We definitely were.
Like, us first?
I all just went, yep. And he doesn't even know what we're talking about. He just assumes that, yes, we were that bad.
Yeah. And then she's like, she sees Artie, Hannah's Glee boyfriend, and she's like, time to steal him. She's like,
Becky, I need a break. You can have him.
She's like, with a voice as velvety as my favorite Sunday church dress and something else. And it's just like all these close-ups of Artie. And she's like, Artie Abrams, you're my new boyfriend, in her head.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then she's talking to Sue, and Sue is like, what about Jason, the cute guy you asked to prom? And she's like, I like hot dogs and he likes pizza. And she's like, I like Artie now.
If there's no compromise there on favorite foods, like, I get it. Like, if I didn't share as many favorite foods with him, I don't know. But hot dogs are her favorite?
True, that is questionable.
Hot dogs over pizza. That's what I don't understand. Like, every once in a while, a hot dog, like at a cookout or whatever, but over pizza?
Maybe she didn't dump Jason. Maybe he dumped her.
Oh, maybe she's saving face.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Because of the hot dog thing.
Yeah. And Sue is like, honestly, Becky, I think you can do better, but why don't you just ask him out?
I wrote like Becky likes Artie. She could do way better. And then Sue said, I'm like, Sue's right.
Yeah. Yeah. She could do better than Artie. Anyone can. And so then she asks Artie out. She's like, well, Artie asked Sugar to he's like, I'm a director, so we could work on something. And she's like, I don't think we'd look good together. Not because you're disabled, but because I'm abled.
And people are really mean.
And they're gonna think your legs are thinner than my arms.
So was he actually trying to ask her out, or was he genuinely being like, I think we should work together? Like, do you think he did like her?
Yeah.
Because why would you ask Sugar Motto to be in anything?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Just saying.
I think he was being one of those sleazy directors who uses his directing to get closer to women.
He would do that.
I didn't read that at all, but you're 100%, you're 1,000% right. That's what was happening.
Oh boy.
That was some casting couch bullshit right there.
Yeah. That's some Smash level shit. I almost
Deep cut. Deep cut.
Don't choke.
So then, but then Becky comes up and is like, do you want to go out just directly? And he's like, go where? And she's like on a date. And so then his idea of a date is for her to watch their performance of Moves Like Jagger / Jumping Jack Flash.
Yeah, he's like, so I could bring my sexy, and I think I did. It was like, I think we can both agree I did. And I'm like, that's really self-centered and gross.
Well, not only that, but like he obviously doesn't want to talk to her after the performance, and like all of the guys leave, and you feel like they left him in the lurch. It was just very uncomfortable.
Like when they go to leave, he's like, please don't leave me alone. And I'm like, that's so rude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When I first saw that, I kind of thought that like he had either said no to her or something, because you don't get the answer in that first scene.
Yeah.
And then I had thought that she had, or like he had not answered her at all, and she was just like showing up there to be like, oh,
hey,
like what do you think? Like, are we gonna do this or not? But then when I realized that it was the date, I was like, were you blowing her off? I don't know what's happening here.
Yeah. It was poorly written, like very poorly written connections there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And just rude, and just like, there's just so much to unpack, and it's hard to unpack.
Yeah.
And then she's like, part 2 is dinner at Breadsticks. So they go to dinner and they have a good time.
Presumably.
Yeah.
Because we don't see them at dinner until the Glee Club confronts him.
Yeah, they're like, what are you doing with Becky? Like, you're leading her on. She's going to think what? And he's like, she's going to think that she's a fun person to be around, and like being around her. Like, you guys talk about acceptance, but like, you don't actually walk the walk.
Yeah, like they confront him, and like I knew this conversation was happening, but then like I thought it would be him being like, yeah, I don't know what to do. Like, you guys need to help me get out of it. But it ended up being like, for me, it ended up being oddly like, okay, like he actually like took the time to get to know her. Like they seemed to have a pretty good time.
Mm-hmm.
And then he like lashes out at them, which I thought was like very necessary for that group. That was,
yeah, I mean, they call it a Becky-vention.
yeah. And also like Santana is like that girl's not nice, she's a cold-hearted bitch. And I'm like, okay, if the angle was that like, no, she's a mean person, it has nothing to do with the fact that she has Down syndrome, but like clearly it's about her disability, and that like his ability is above hers in a way. So they're like, you're clearly leading her on because you're somewhat abled in a way that she's not. So like, it was very weird. I did not like this.
Yeah, I did. And the entire storyline doesn't really lead anywhere.
Yeah.
I think it was like, again, another poor attempt to like give Artie some kind of like, I don't know, some redemption, because he's been such because he's been such a misogynist up until this point, that this is like the one shining moment that we see Artie actually be like a decent, good human. But it was again like a very fleeting moment, especially in the fact that like we didn't even get to see them have dinner. We didn't even get to see them like actually connect and have a cool and fun conversation.
Yeah, like it was maybe 30 seconds of their date, and it was very like there was clearly a rapport happening, which was cool, but like it was so small.
Yeah, Becky talks about, my mom says I have get down syndrome. I thought that was great. Cute. Yeah.
I was like, that's a good one. That's good.
Yeah, and he's like, she gets what it's like to be disabled. So this storyline was just, it wasn't fully handled. I just feel like it was a little half-baked.
Yeah, they definitely wanted to make it about the fact that like Becky wants to be treated like everyone else, and that she wants her relationships to be the same, and that other people are going to be judging it. And so using Artie to have that connection, be like, well, like she understands what I go through and I can understand things that she goes through. It's like we could have a connection. But yeah, I think it's one of those moments where like they've stuffed this episode with things that are just much bigger right now in terms of quote unquote importance to them. So like this gets really buried and it's very short and clipped.
Yeah.
It doesn't get the space it deserves.
Because then Becky approaches him in the next scene and is like, she's like, I'm about to seal the deal. She sends a text and she's like, my place, Friday night, we're going to do it. And
she's like, this is a sneak peek of what you get. And I was like, oh, Becky, girl.
Again, that's child pornography.
Yeah.
Wait, and then he shows it to Sue. He like straight up just shows the nude to Sue. Like,
yeah.
That's what was really confusing. It was like, okay. I was like, okay, sure. She's like expressing her sexuality.
Yeah.
But she's a minor. It is child pornography. None of those things come up. And then it is shown to an adult who should take it to the principal and be like, hey, we got to stop this.
Instead, her reaction is,
she's got a cute little shape. And I'm like, no.
It's just so wrong on so many levels.
Because I actually think that the way she's like, she has a cute little shape is not treating Becky like any other student. Because if Artie had brought any of the other cheerleaders their nudes to her, she would be like, you're off the team.
Yeah. And then she's like, Becky, but she says Becky just wants to be treated like everyone else. Why don't you just treat her like a person and tell her? And she's like, did you go out to dinner? And he's like, yeah, we had a good time, but you want to go out on another date? And he's like, no.
Yeah. Which is true.
Yeah. And she's like, Becky could do a lot better than someone who wears driving gloves every day and buttons their shirt up all the way.
Yeah, she's like, it's a wheelchair, not a Porsche. And then he's like, are you finished? And then she's like, stop buttoning up your shirt and all these things. I was like, that's a terrific scene. Like, that's her in character. But then she's also like underlyingly being civil and nice and like a decent person this episode. So it was really confusing.
Yeah, it was definitely a mix. But I liked this scene because it was showing that she didn't approve of Artie for Becky. And was taking it out, but still trying to be some sort of adult authority figure. And then Artie approaches Becky and is like, she's like, hey, he's like, hey, about Friday night. She's like, oh, are you excited? And he's like, I like you as a friend, but I don't think we should date. And she's like, are you intimidated by me? And he's like, yeah, that's it. And she slams the locker shut, and we get Helen Mirren's voice. She's like, I didn't want to ask him. The reason he didn't want to be my boyfriend was because I have Downs, because I already knew the answer. Some days it sucks being me. But she's like, don't let them see you cry.
Yeah, that was really... Like, I think that was relatively well handled, that segment of the story of her being like it feels very authentic for, you know, she understands like her position in society right now, just because of the way society treats her. And like, she understands it. And the fact that she's like, don't let them see you cry, because she has this reputation of being a badass. So like, I think that part was very well handled.
Yeah. And then so then she's in Sue's office, and Sue is like, I've been dumped too. I know it hurts, but let's turn on the TV, let's get some ice cream, and we'll watch Beaches. And so I thought that was a cute moment.
Yeah.
So that's the end of Blarty, or Barty, not Blarty. Blarty, this is Blaine. And so now let's talk about Finn and the stuff with his dad. So
And Rachel?
And Rachel.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's in there a little bit.
So Finn tells Will that he wants to go into the military. And then they have like kind of an intervention thing where they have Will and Emma and Bert and Carol there. They're like, sit down, and they're like, hey, we heard you're talking about going to the military. He's like, which I told him in confidence.
Yeah. Well, when this first started, I was like, oh, they're going to have a very serious conversation about the risks and the sort of, the heavy part of going into the military and that decision. Whereas like, I feel like in a lot of ways in real life and then in TV, it's treated as like, oh, that's such a great idea. Like, it's so honorable, yada, yada. But like the very risks of doing that, I thought that's what it was going to be about. And then it was a very convenient backstory that we're getting.
Yeah. And this just points why as an adult shouldn't have a student as one of their best friends, because you can't keep their confidentiality the way you can with another adult.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked that Will actually acted like a responsible adult in this moment and told Finn's parents.
Yeah.
My real question here is like, why they're having this conversation at the school with Will and Emma? And is there another teacher there?
Just Will and Emma.
Oh,
yeah.
I think it's because I feel like Emma's a guidance counselor, so like she should be there. But I feel like Will is there because, one, they're best friends, obviously. And two, I think it's because he was the one who told Bert and Carol. So like he was there to be like, I told them this. Emma's here to be the sort of other side of it.
That kind of makes sense to me if they were having the conversation that you were talking about,
right,
which
exactly.
we were talking about the risks of going into the military.
That's the other thing, is that it kind of feels like, yeah, that's why I was confused. I was like, oh, this is what's going to be. And then it was something totally different. And then I'm like, this is convenient.
I feel like they just alluded to it without straight up being like, yeah, this is like a really possibly dangerous thing you're doing to your life. And then they also made sure to cover their backs by having Bert be like, I'm not anti-military or anything,
yes,
but here's what could happen if you do join the military.
Yeah, because it starts with like Will being like, I told Bert and your mom that you wanted to consider the military. And Bert basically is like, what's your angle with this? He's like, I'm not anti-military, but why do you want to do it? And then that's when Finn's, mentions like, well, I don't really know what I want to do. And my dad did this, and I think I want to be like him, essentially. And then Carol is like, oh, I knew it was him. And I was like, what? It was very affronting, this whole conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Carol is like, he's like, well, Dad was a war hero, and she's like, your dad didn't die in Afghanistan, or Iraq, and he's like, he died he's like, he died a hero's death, and she's like, he died in Cincinnati.
She's like, maybe he saw something or what he experienced there, but.
Yeah, your father was a good man, but it changed him. Mm-hmm. And he was dishonorably discharged. He had a drug problem, and he tried to get over it, but he would disappear for sometimes weeks at a time, and then he never came back one day, and he died.
Okay, first thing is I don't think he needed to have been dishonorably discharged. He could have just not re-enlisted because, you know, it just like wasn't for him, or he could have been honorably discharged.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So like Finn later says like loser, right? Like they made him seem like a quote unquote loser because he was dishonorably discharged. Like the weight that carries for someone in the military, like I don't know if using that, I feel like this may have been using that a bit too lightly. Like that's a pretty serious thing. But like, I don't know, like I feel like if he had just come back, he just didn't re-enlist and he developed a drug problem because of, you know, PTSD or whatever. I feel like the dishonorable discharge was like overdoing it. Cause like that doesn't have to happen to you. You know, it just.
Yeah, I don't understand why they made him into a loser. Especially when Finn had this, like, is it because they wanted him?
They wanted to tear down Finn's hero, basically.
Yeah, like knock down the pedestal. I mean, okay.
Which I think could have very easily been done, like, not even necessarily knocking down, like, they didn't have to necessarily knock down the pedestal, just like present that, like, you know, going to the military isn't just like as honorable. Like, it could have still been like he came back from the war, he didn't re-enlist, he had severe PTSD, and he suffered from a drug abuse problem because he couldn't take whatever he was going through. I think that would be just enough to be like, well, shit, maybe I shouldn't go into the military. Like, I think that would be enough for Finn. Like, without having to be like, yeah, your dad was dishonorably discharged. Like, I felt it was overkill.
Yeah.
Forgive the words, but.
Well, I mean, if his entire, like, ideation, like, if the only reason he wants to go into the military is because his dad did, and he sees his dad as a war hero, like, then he can still see his dad as a war hero if he's not dishonorably discharged. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. Then I feel like
his motivation for actually wanting to go into the military needs to be something else.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people do go in the military because their family was in the military, but also, like, I feel like it would have been enough for his mom to be like, he came back and he was totally different. Like, he was not the man he was because he suffered. And then he had the drug problem, which made him even more different, even worse. He was struggling. I feel like that would have been enough. It would have still, like, kept his dad as sort of an honorable person to him and still have been, like, shaken him about the military. I mean, like, this is very serious, that you have to consider more things than just your dad. I think that should have been the conversation, not just like, don't go into the military, because that's kind of where it seemed to be. Like, don't go into the military because your dad. Like, I feel like this would be like, there's way more to consider.
Yeah. And he's like, why did you lie to me? And she's like, I was going to tell you when you were ready. He's like, well, I'm not ready. When was I ever going to be ready for this?
I mean, that's also a good point.
And
like, how are you ever ready for that?
Yeah, I couldn't stop thinking about the fact that, like, they had been lying to him his entire life, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, like, you remember when his mom was getting rid of furniture and stuff, and he wanted to keep that lazy boy because his dad sat in it, right? Yeah. Like, he revered his dad in such a way that, like, I don't think all of that had to be completely torn down, you know?
Yeah.
Because that kind of also does away with his service, that, like, he still served. Like, just because he was dishonorably discharged doesn't mean that he still wasn't, like, a good soldier when he was a soldier. Like he got dishonorably discharged, it seems like, because of drugs, which was directly related to PTSD. It wasn't that, like, he just randomly became a drug addict, right? So, like, I don't know. It's very, very oddly oddly set up this whole story.
Definitely felt for Finn though in the moment where he just felt so shattered. It was sad. And so he kind of runs off, and poor Carol, I love Carol.
I just have to say, her acting, like I don't say this normally, but like that was amazing. Like that was kind of Emmy worthy. Like that was really, really good. Like I actually kind of teared up. I thought she did amazing.
Yeah, we stan Carol.
We stan Carol. We stan that actor for sure.
And so then later there's a scene with Finn and Kurt and Rachel at Breadsticks. This is moment 2 of 2 where someone makes someone else's problem all about them, and in a worse way. So Finn is like, why do they have to do that? This makes him like, why do they have to tell me that? Like, why couldn't I just have something nice?
Yeah, he's like, why is my dad a loser, essentially, or something like that.
Yeah, like, I'm going to have loser DNA in me.
Yes, that's what he said, loser DNA. Which, again, the dishonorable discharge thing, I feel like that, like his dad was still a war hero in a way. Like, he still served. He served in Iraq and Afghanistan. Like, that's still important. But, like, then Kurt's like, well, if we're throwing a pity party, and I went, excuse me? A pity party? And then he's like, I'm not going to get into any yada. I was like, fuck you, Kurt. And then Rachel just jumped right in too. She's like, I've been scouring the web. I was like, I hate you guys. This kid is suffering here.
Wait, and then when he's like really upset, like really, really deep in his feelings, poor Finn is like contemplating everything about his life up until this point. Rachel starts singing. She starts singing.
Yes!
Ma'am!
Ma'am, can you stop? Yeah, that scene was so crazy. I was like, you're not being able to possibly get into your dream college. You'll get into a college, Kurt. You're a good student. But like not getting into the dream college pales in comparison to this kid finding out that his dad was not the person he thought he was, and that he based a lot of his own character and aspirations on this person. Pales in comparison. They're not even on the same plane of existence.
Kurt also snaps for the waitstaff twice.
Yeah. What was that bougie shit?
I thought he was poor too. His dad is like a mechanic. Like his dad owns what are they called? I don't know, mechanic shops.
Yeah.
I don't know what's the term for it. That right? Yeah. And then again, Rachel fixated on. I think the way that I interpreted it was like Rachel fixating on the fact that like now Finn's like gonna change his character, and then that's gonna affect like how she relates to her whole life with him and whatever. And I'm like, no,
again,
Rachel,
not about you. I also, going back to like the snapping at the waiter thing, I don't even like when my grandma's like, get the waitress, get the waiter for me. I like look back and I see them doing stuff and I'm like, I don't want to bother them. Like, I'll get their attention when they walk directly past me. Like, I'm not gonna like, excuse me. Like, I can't. Like, I don't want to mess up their groove. How could you have the nerve to just be like, cheesecake? No, I'm gonna have 2. How?
They didn't even say anything to the waiter. They just snapped. He just snapped.
Bananas. I don't get it.
Yeah, and then Rachel, while Finn is talking about his feelings, she starts singing Without You. Yeah.
I hated that. That did not suit her voice whatsoever.
It was, I forgot that song existed. Part of me liked it, but I didn't like it in the context. I know I've heard it before. I was like, oh, this is kind of nice. In the context, it was very weird.
How does it go again?
I can't win. I can't
rain. I will never be the same without you.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, like, it's an okay cover. Like, it's fine. But, like, it's a very dependent song Like, it's very about, like, I can't do anything without this person I'm singing about. And Rachel singing that, like, it's definitely in character, but it's not healthy. And it makes me worried for her.
Not only that, like, why does she sing it right then?
Well, I think they just were transitioning. I don't think she literally sings without you in the restaurant.
No, but it doesn't make it for that scene.
She would, though. She would, though.
It doesn't make sense for that scene. Like, they're talking about how they can't get into colleges and how Finn found out about his dad, and, like, all of a sudden...
The show makes his pain about her by that transition.
There's no transition. There's like one idea and then there's another idea and then they just jump over to it. There's no transition there.
Well, they transition scenes is what they do. But what they do is like they take basically what is Finn's scene of aftermath and make it all about Rachel. Because she takes the lead by the end of it and transitions into, here's my other pitch for the proposal song that is actually about me depending so much on Finn.
I still don't understand it as a transition. I don't think it works. The two scenes have nothing to do with each other.
Oh no, I'm not going to argue that it works. It's just what happened.
It was bad.
Yeah, it's no bueno. And
it was a sorry attempt to put her in the front because there wasn't enough Rachel in this episode. Right,
I
Murphy
agree.
said, I need my star.
Yep.
They got
There just need to be so much more Rachel. Yeah. Also, like, okay, so she sings it in the choir room. Cool, whatever. And then, like, Santana's like, wow, you did really great. This assignment was about Rachel singing songs about how she feels about Finn, right? I was like, finally, someone says it. My girl speaking the truth.
Yeah, I like that moment. And hot take, I do enjoy this cover. Yeah,
I like it on the album. I like it on the album, but I did not like it in context.
So many face journeys happening this episode. So many.
Oh yeah. You mean like in the episode of Glee, or just like in our episode, what we're looking at each other?
Episode of Glee, looking at each other. I just like there's so many good faces people are making. So then Finn has Rachel come to the auditorium. He's looking at a picture of his dad, and she's like, you have his mouth and his eyes, and he's like, I used to look at his picture trying to see if I could see myself in him. And I always had trouble. And then he's like, sit down and I'm going to ask you something and don't interrupt me. I know that's really hard for you.
He literally is saying, sit down and shut up. It's the Finn way of saying that.
Yeah.
And he's like, you're the best thing that's ever happened to me. I have high school hero, life zero written all over me. You are this bright, shining star lighting the way, and for some reason you let me love you. And I just want to keep doing that if you'll let me, if you'll say yes. It's not very much, but it's a promise to keep loving you. And he kneels down and he proposes to her. Rachel Berry, will you marry me? Speaking of face journeys, Hannah is freaking out.
I am making quadruple chins as I inch away and make gross face.
And the episode ends on Rachel contemplating
gasping.
Choice. She gasps.
I am anti this moment. I'm anti this storyline. All I could think of was, okay, we just watched two mid-30-year-old people get engaged. Logically, that makes sense. Okay. But then I'm looking at these people who look like they're in their late 20s, early 30s, who are playing 17, 18-year-olds, gonna, like, talking about marriage. And I'm like, it was messing with my brain.
They're not
like,
even
okay.
seniors. They're not seniors.
Yes, they are. They're both seniors.
Damn it. I can't keep it one straight. It doesn't matter.
Yes. I'm like looking at this. I'm like, okay, they look older, but I was like, okay, remember, they're 17, 18, which one of the two? And I'm like, and they're talking about what is supposed to be a lifelong commitment. And I'm like, like it made me breathless. Like I was so stressed. I was like, at that age, like thinking about myself and then other people I knew in school, like I couldn't imagine any of those people marrying each other at that time. No, it's just like we were still children. So I just,
what is Ben thinking? What is he thinking? That poor boy. He has no sense of self-identity. He
quite literally.
Yeah, he revolves his self-identity around other people. First, it was his father, and when he found out that his father was not who he thought he was, he switched his adoration to someone else, someone he decided to propose to.
Why does he look up to Bert? Bert is a great person. He just won a congressional campaign as a write-in candidate. He's just a good all-around person, it seems. He's got a great small business. Like, look up to that guy.
I don't understand what's going on through Finn's head. Not only that, but like, you know that Rachel wants to go to Nyada. You know this. You know she wants to go to New York.
Can you imagine Finn in New York? In New York City? No. I don't think he'll ever be able to live there. Also, it makes sense that he's lost in identity. He's a teenager, right? It makes sense. But I'm just like, I'm literally like, I was breathless watching this because like I remembered it happening. But I think like I watched that in high school or maybe early college. I don't remember which. And I remember being like, oh, wow, crazy. This is a big moment. But now I'm like, they're children. Like they have so much of their life ahead of them. Like I can't even imagine myself thinking about that decision then. Like I don't know. I'm very nervous. I'm very nervous about this. I'm somewhat invested now because I'm very nervous about it.
It makes sense for Finn's character in that Finn is so lost and he's like, well, my best friend and the person I look up to, Will, got married and he seems got engaged. Like that seems to be bringing meaning and purpose to his life. I love Rachel. I should get engaged because I need meaning in my life. And like, I need to hold on to the one good thing I have, ignoring all the crazy other good things he has, but just like focusing on, well, I don't have a future, but I could have a future with Rachel. So I need to grab onto that.
And it's also a self-esteem issue too, is like, even though he was like captain of the football team or whatever, and you know he is captain of the Glee club and they're going to regionals now, like he still has things that are working for him in his life right now, but I think there's nothing ahead of him after that, and it's freaking him out. And like because he seems to lack self-esteem in general, you know, that's really, really messing with him. So like I totally get it. I think it's one of the most realistic things Glee has ever done, honestly, is even though I think this is bananas of them to get engaged, I think it makes total sense for Finn's character for this to be his decision. I think it is like the most logical thing that's ever happened.
Yeah, he doesn't have a plan. So now he's like, okay, well, I guess Rachel's going to be my plan.
Yeah, I think Cullen was like, he's going to latch onto her. Like it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's the end of the episode.
I'm literally breathless thinking about it. It's so stressful. Yeah. Like people who got married out of high school, especially if they're still kicking, how did you do it? Tell us. Like, I'm so stressed.
Yep. Yeah, I think of me getting married at 17 and I'm like,
yeah, no. And I mean, like, I didn't even like date in high school, but like if I had been, and I'm thinking about like the people I was around, oh boy, I wouldn't have met you guys.
Aww.
Oh, I hate those kind of moments where like I think about like, oh, if I had made this other decision, I probably wouldn't have met all these awesome people, and then I get really sad.
Why?
This is what happens when I
made the right decision. I don't understand the sadness. It didn't happen.
I know, but like if you think, well, technically, if you believe in alternate universes, it did happen somewhere. But I think about like there were so many times where like I was so close to like not doing certain things. Like I like almost didn't go to BU. I almost went to Emerson for a totally different program. I probably wouldn't have met you guys. We wouldn't have had this podcast. You would have some other crazy woman from Ohio screaming into her mic about Glee.
Yeah.
I've also just had 3 glasses of wine, so I'm a little emotional.
Okay.
We love it. We're here for it. Yeah, but here we are together talking about Glee and talking about Tina
time.
She had double the amount of lines she had last week.
Is that 2?
2.
Nice.
She had 2 lines.
And she had a little moment in the song.
She did. She had a solo.
She had like 2.5.
No, we don't count solos.
Okay, she had 2 lines and a solo.
Yes.
Yes.
It's a small solo, though. I think she had the smallest solo out of all of them.
Glee loves their character hierarchies. Yeah. So now it's time to talk about MVPs and LVPs. Yadira, who is your least valuable player this week?
I had to think about it for a little bit because I was between 2 individuals, but I'm going to give it to Will Schuster this time. It was between him and Artie, but Artie had a bit of a redemption at like near the very end. Will, no. He was a no this time around.
Just no.
Yeah, it was really the attempting to have that conversation with Emma about her mental illness and like that in the context of a marriage, but not doing it well, essentially being like, I'm blaming you for this thing that's completely out of your control, and then not really taking a moment to digest what had happened and proposing to her.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's valid. Oh, wow, yeah. So I second that. I think overall, I think everyone else was kind of okay. I think he was probably like one of like the craziest. But for me, I went with Kurt for LVP, mostly because he literally jumped into Finn's emotional wreckage, called it a pity party, and then complained about not getting into his dream college when like clearly that was not appropriate. Read the room, Kurt. That's all I gotta say.
I'm gonna also go with Shu because he was just like the epitome of what I don't want in a husband. So the fact that
you don't want a demeaning husband?
No. Can you believe that?
You're such a modern woman.
Basically, like this entire episode was an example of what I like don't want my marriage to be.
You meet your possible
engaged. Yeah.
You meet a possible future partner and you show them this episode and you're like, no, don't do this.
Don't do this.
I'm gonna go with Emma's parents. They're the worst. And
do we know their names? We don't care though, do we?
We don't. They don't deserve names. Why did Will even talk to them? I don't know, but they're white supremacists and abusive. Yeah, not a fan. Yadira, who is your MVP this episode?
My MVP this episode was Sue. She's really supportive and kind of hopeful and like just kind of out of character and very nice to people. So that was an interesting little twist to see. And then her also like calling out Artie on all his gross and creepy things, also amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a tie. I wrote Sue down for like the same things as like she was still like really supportive. She gave Artie really sound advice to be like treat her like a real person. And she was also like really supportive, but she still held on to her Sue-ness of like giving people great like calling Emma Amelia and still giving Artie like some sassiness and some zings. But then I also chose Becky, a very, very close second, mastering a British internal monologue. Two, being brave enough to talk to her crush in general. Like, that's like a super stress-inducing thing to do, especially as a teenager. And she like seemed to not be nervous at all, which was super cool. And then also, I'm gonna give her like congratulations that you made it through a dinner with Artie. Like, I'm so sorry you had to do that, but like MVP status for that too.
I'm actually going with Sue also. You and I have the same lineup right now, Yadira. And yeah, I liked this Sue this episode. Like, she's pretty much way out of character for basically everything she does, except for with Becky. I can see her like comforting with ice cream and stuff with Becky normally. But like her supportive nature with Emma, even though she got her name wrong, like it's still like I loved that little scene with them at the lunch table all together. It was great.
I'm gonna go with Mercedes.
Oh, okay.
I loved I mean I love whenever she sings. I love her singing Summer Nights. I like her and Sam as a couple, but I like that she's standing her ground and being like, no, I'm with Shane. But then we forgot to talk about the scene where she's like, the girls follow her to the bathroom and she's like, I didn't think of Shane, I thought of Sam.
Oh yeah, that's right. Well, I have to say though, in that scene, Rachel gave, even though it was really small, sound advice of like, just like take it slow and process your feelings. Like that was like decent advice rather than being like, oh, you have to choose, or like, no, you're with this guy, you have to stick with him. Like she was like, process your feelings, take your time, figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I don't think we talked about, did we talk about how like Sam and Mercedes' voices in that song like sounded really good together, I think.
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah, I just love Mercedes and I love anytime she gets to shine. And she just has such a bright energy. And
also, it was a storyline that didn't have to do with her looks or like her race. Like every time we've had a storyline with her, pretty much it's been about like her weight, maybe a little bit about her being Black, but it's mostly just been about, and also like the fact that she's just been disregarded by Glee Club. Like those are really like the only things we get to have. And we get to have like a storyline about her love life, which is really important with her right now. So like that's really refreshing for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And so I like seeing it. So yeah, Mercedes is my MVP.
Also that Foxy necklace though.
So songs, we had Summer Nights, Moves Like Jagger / Jumpin' Jack Flash, The First Time I Ever Saw Your Face, We Found Love, and Without You. So Yadira, what was your least favorite song?
My least favorite song was Without You. It was not good. I just didn't like it. It didn't sound right in her voice. Was not a fan.
I had this song and then something else in mind, but I don't remember what the other one was. But I'm just going to choose this one. Wedding Bell Blues. I think the song in general, I know it's like a much older song. A lot of older songs are a bit like very family oriented and like wedding oriented and like women being like, oh, I love this man and I will let him treat me like crap. But anyway, I'm going to pick Wedding Bell Blues. I didn't mind the number in general with like Emma and Sue and Beast. I thought that was kind of fun. But what I did not like was the sappy swooning over Shu, which was somehow worse than watching his hips move. And I don't know why, but it was.
I'm going to go with The First Time I Saw Your Face. Because I thought it was so boring. Because it was boring and slow and boring.
I'm going with
Tell us
moves
how you
like
really
Jagger.
feel, though, Alyssa.
Was it boring?
It was actually
Was it
kind
slow?
of boring.
Okay, I mean, if you say so.
I'm going with moves like Jagger / Jumpin' Jack Flash for the scarves.
I think that was my other one, yeah. Because I knew my other one was a fast one.
For the scarves, for the shoe dancing.
For the memories of the Grinch.
Yeah.
Oh, ooh.
Yeah. It was not fun. Did not enjoy. No, thank you.
You didn't enjoy the shoe and a tank top dancing?
No, thank you. Please. So, Yadira, what was your favorite song?
It was actually Wedding Bell Blues, just because I really like Jayma May's voice, and I feel like we don't get it enough in the show, and I love listening to her sing. It's just so soothing to me. So
Yeah, we
100%.
don't get enough.
Yeah, I think, what was the other one? We've had maybe like two others. One was in the episode we will never name again. And then she sang another.
She's saying I could have danced all night.
Yes. I knew it was another wedding one. That one was really good too. But yeah, we don't really get a lot of her, which is kind of unfortunate.
We got her in Afternoon Delight.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That one's great. Oh, yeah. I still don't understand how she didn't know what Afternoon Delight meant. But anyway, my favorite song is...
When I first saw that episode at like age 12, I didn't know.
Right. That makes sense. I think I found out from the movie Anchorman because they sing that song, and I think I was just like, oh, what does that mean? And then I think I maybe looked it up. I think that's how I learned what it was. Yeah. Oh, Google, teaching me too many things. So my favorite song is going to be actually The First Time I Ever Saw Your Face. I really liked that cover. I actually haven't heard like the original in a really long time, so I don't know like how tried and true it is. But I loved the harmonies so much. But yeah, I guess in context it is super boring. It's definitely not like it's not like a fun watch. I did think some of the flashbacks were interesting just as a concept, but yeah, actually I think this is one I want to add to my playlist because it's really pretty.
So I'm gonna go with moves like Jagger and what was the
Jumpin' Jack Flash.
Jumpin' Jack Flash. I like the music. Yeah, I know. I like the music in this one. Like I said, I don't like any of the visuals, but I don't like any of the other songs like half as much as I liked to listen to this one. This one was just fun to listen to. And I just blacked out the rest of it. I closed my eyes, so I didn't actually, but I could have, and I still would have enjoyed it if my eyes were closed. Probably would have enjoyed it more.
Probably. Mine was We Found Love. I love that song. I love the cover. I loved all the swimming, dancing, even though it didn't make logical sense. I love a big production number, and so I loved it. And I love Rachel and Santana's voices.
Must have been an expensive number because, as we've learned, scenes and sequences shot with water, very expensive. Plus, probably all like the reshoots they had to do, like the multiple takes because of all the water having to get dried off, and that must have been a pain. So I'm glad it paid off.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Santana and Rachel never go under the water. They never get their hair wet, so they don't have to dry off their hair and redo their hairdos.
They still got to get their outfits dry, though.
Maybe they just have multiple outfits.
That's true. They probably do.
Mm-hmm.
That's a smart way to do it.
Wardrobe change. Can I just say, though, this episode was like insane, and it keeps getting worse and worse. Like the further we go, it
like
just
worse, like bad content,
like crazy content.
Yeah.
I was talking with Cullen. I was like, Cullen, I feel like I'm on a water ride where you're going around and around and around in a circle. And then all of a sudden you realize that you're in a toilet.
Oh, yeah. We're in a toilet. We're in a content toilet. I know of at least 4 things that are crazier than this, and I can't wait for you to watch them.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
At least 4 that I can remember right now.
Oh my goodness.
It only gets crazier.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh, are we halfway done yet?
About, because 6 isn't a full season.
Yeah, so probably in a couple episodes we'll be about halfway through the show, probably.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Wait, is season 6 what, like 15 episodes or something?
Yeah, like 13.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So that's the end of our episode today. Yads, do you have any social medias you'd like to plug?
Follow the New York Public Library because libraries are good.
Yeah, great call out. Yeah, follow your local library in general. I'm sure most libraries are doing like pickup service. You can order online. I think like my local library is actually shipping to your house. So yeah, support your local libraries in the pandemic. If there's new books coming out, like I don't know, Barack Obama's book that just came out, if you want to read it, get on the wait list because there's probably a ton of people on that wait list. But yeah, great shout out. Support your local library and support small businesses in your area too, especially small restaurants, especially if you're going down into another lockdown. By the time you hear this, you may be out of a lockdown or going into a new lockdown. So support small restaurants, small businesses, all that fun stuff. Yeah. Gleeboot is on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. We are at Gleeboot Pod. And then we're also on Tumblr, gleebootpod.tumblr.com.
By the time you're hearing this, we'll have finished our second podcast, Wanderer's Cove. It is an 8-episode mini podcast. So you can find us wherever you get your podcast and follow us on Instagram at Wanderer's Cove Podcast.
Nice.
It's a crazy mystery in a small town full of crazy people and slightly less insane teenagers.
Only slightly less insane.
Are you planning a second season?
We just recorded the last episode of season 1 today, so I don't know.
Oh, fun.
Did you already do Gleeboot?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
And then it was Wanderer's Cove. I know too.
Yes. Yeah, okay. You could follow me if you wanted on Instagram at a.m.swearingen. That's SWEARINGEN. And I occasionally post interesting things. Occasionally.
Nice. So, Yadira, thank you so much for coming on. We hope you had fun.
I had a great time being here.
Yay! So tune in next week for, I believe it is the Michael Jackson episode.
Oh.
So.
Oh boy.
Gleeboot.